Hello, and welcome to the third installment of Fedora Fiction Press's video, where we're reading from my novel Menace in the Goldilocks Zone. Now, as you may recall, so far we have met Roger, the Cerulean, and Peregrine, who we've learned is from Nebula, one of the other planets in the Goldilocks Zone. And Peregrine, so that's an interesting little side note. When I first wrote this, Peregrine's character's name was Pilgrim, and I changed it because it sounded cooler to be Peregrine. Peregrine, in case you don't know, as you may know if you speak Latin, is Latin for pilgrim. It just sounds different. So anyway, has invited Roger on a quest or an adventure to search out and find lost ancient artifacts, ancient treasures that have been stolen many hundreds of years ago. And evidently Peregrine has information that these artifacts may be on a planet called Kryptos, which a very distant planet at the edge of the Goldilocks Zone, as a matter of fact. So when we left Roger and Peregrine, they were bedding down for the night after having enjoyed a lovely meal. So we begin now with Chapter 3, Fair Winds. Roger gets up with the sun, as is his habit. He can see Peregrine stirring in the shelter, and after flushing his gill chambers in the sea, he lays out a breakfast similar to the previous night's repast. He greets Peregrine as it emerges from the shelter. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" Peregrine takes a seat at the table. Peregrine did sleep well. Roger sleep well? I slept very well. I always sleep very well. He watches Peregrine take a piece of nectar gel before taking one himself. "Peregrine," he inquires after ingesting it, "would you mind terribly if I took you to the trading port? Or have you already summoned a commercial skiff?" Peregrine not call skiff. Peregrine happy if Roger take to trading port. "Good. I want to pay Salt a visit. Talking yesterday made me realize I haven't visited him at his business at the port for years. He's always come here." "Salt happy to see Roger." "I'll be happy to see him." They finish their breakfast, and Roger lowers his skiff into the water as Peregrine folds up his shelter and packs his belongings. Roger is about to load a crate of nectar gel, his customary parting gift to Peregrine, when the creature stops him. Roger saved nectar gel for journey to Kryptos. "Oh, it's quite all right. I have plenty, and we'll have plenty more in half a year." Peregrine want Roger to have plenty for journey. But Roger's mantle flashes a bit yellow in his distress. "I cannot send you off without a parting gift. It would be rude. You must take at least a little nectar gel." "Peregrine has plenty gel here," the creature assures him, patting its abdomen. Roger give big gift by coming to Kryptos. "Oh, very well." Roger helps Peregrine load his packs into the skiff, and they cast off from the dock. It is the usual clear day, and as he unfolds the sails, Roger notes a fair wind. "We should make good time to Rocketon," Roger notes to Peregrine, who acknowledges with a rocking of its head. With one hand on the tiller and the other three making adjustments to the sails, Roger steers on a westerly course that keeps at least one island in sight off the port bow. Peregrine sits in the bow, soaking up the sun, the breeze blowing its short patch of light brown hair straight back toward Roger in the stern. About a kilometer out, Roger spots a vessel sporting sails emblazoned with a familiar insignia. Securing his sails, he takes out his signaling device. "Ahoy, Dreads," he signals. "How's the hunting?" "Ahoy, Admiral," the reply comes. "Happily very poor. Spotted a tiny one 3 days ago and ran it off. Headed into berth as our patrol shift is over." "Well done, lads," Roger signals back. Hasten to your rest. You've earned it. Hail, Dreads! Hail, Admiral Roger! Roger adjusts his course so that he passes well astern of the other vessel and sees Peregrine asking him a question. Admiral Roger? Oh, Roger's mantle flutters between pink and yellow, which is in another creature would be a self-conscious laugh. The joke in the Dreads is that the higher a person's rank, the less he does. So when you muster out, you are said to be promoted to Admiral, as you will be doing nothing at all. All former Dreads are addressed as Admiral. It is both an honorific and a joke. How Dreads know Roger? By the insignia on my sails. These colors, he gestures to the sails, indicate my service in the Dreads. Pattern on sails, not water talk. No, Roger agrees. It is a maritime code. Most people can't read it unless they've served in the Dreads. Peregrine rocks his head and then asks, what Dreads do? Dreads hunt, or more properly speaking, patrol for the Dreads, which are large predatory flatworms. When the Dread patrols first started, they simply warned of the worm's presence. In my day, as now, they actively protect the waters around the islands. Dreads very dangerous? Yes, Roger replies as he adjusts the sails. Before the Dread patrols, the worms would take people off the beach as they flush their guilt chambers. Some Dreads would even attack skiffs. The Dread patrols have made those attacks a thing of the past. What Roger doesn't tell Peregrine was that the Dread patrol is a dangerous business, as the culture of the patrols is to minimize the public knowledge of the danger. The Dreads are socialized to believe that their work is no more or less essential to the good of cerulean society than those who care for the elderly and sick, or those who raise and educate the young, or those who harvest gel nectar and nectar fruit, or those who clean the streets of the larger islands. To publicly discuss such danger is considered boorish. As a result, the Dreads understate their encounters with their quarry when they speak publicly about them, or when they fear being overheard or overseen, is probably a more accurate way of putting it. Like the insignia on the sails, the Dreads have a code of speaking about their encounters with the worms. The offhand report the Dread Patrol just gave to Roger would seem to indicate a relatively uneventful patrol shift. In reality, the patrol told Roger they had encountered a very large worm, the use of the word tiny being the tip-off, and fought it for 3 days, 3 days ago, and that they had killed it and consigned it to the deep, ran it off. The fact that they said they were headed back to berth told Roger they had a wounded comrade aboard and were in haste to get back to base. Though he does not speak of it, this does occupy Roger's thoughts as he sails on to the space trading city, although we would consider the place more of a town, of Rocketon. Fair winds, comrade, he finds himself thinking, which in the Dread Code meant, may your recovery be swift. His mind drifts to the days long past when he and Salt sailed in the Dread Patrol. As now, they sped over the azure waters under full sail, under a bright sun, ever alert for the dark shadow of danger from beneath. His reverie is broken by the sight of a space vessel rising from the horizon, its hull glinting in the sun. Roger consults his instruments and adjusts his course to approach Squall Line, the island Rocketon occupies, from the north, where the public docks are located. They pass the docks, tacking north to come about with the wind at their back. Roger drops his sails and turns the tiller at just the right moment to glide up to the moorings and toss the young dock worker his lines. Peregrine jumps out and secures the bow lines. How long will you be staying with us, sir? The young cerulean asks of Roger. A few hours likely. Say, there are dry dock facilities here, are there not? Why, yes, sir. How does one obtain a reservation for one? The harbor master can arrange that for you, sir. Thank you. My friend here will require transport to the spaceport. I will summon one for you, sir. Again, my thanks. Roger helps Peregrine unload its belongings, and as they wait for the transport, asks, Would you like to say goodbye to Salt before you leave? We can stop there before we take you to your vessel. Yes, Peregrine wants to see Salt. We are agreed then. Roger looks around the public docks. There are more Aredian motorized skiffs every time I come here, he remarks ruefully. Soon no one will remember how to sail but the dreads. Technology spreads like disease, Peregrine replies. Roger looks at him, a flash of orange in his mantle betraying surprise. An apt, if depressing simile. As if on cue, an Aredian motorized transport glides up. It is operated by another young cerulean who jumps off and helps them load Peregrine's packs onto the flat bed. Roger folds himself into one of the passenger seats while Peregrine slides easily into the other. When I was young, Roger remarks to Peregrine, these were hand-drawn carts, and we either walked beside them or helped the driver pull them. There seemed to be much more camaraderie then. The transport carries them away from the docks and into the streets of Rocketon, where it joins a stream of transports heading toward the spaceport. Roger gets the attention of the driver and explains they wish to stop at Salt's business. The driver knows the business well, and just before getting to the spaceport, leaves that parade of transports to join another, slowly moving one. Mr. Salt appears very busy this morning, the driver observes. We are only 30 meters from the door, but at this pace we will be here all morning. Perhaps you would prefer to get out and walk. I will wait over there, he suggests, pointing to an empty space out of traffic. Excellent suggestion, my lad. Roger turns to Peregrine. Shall we get off this contraption and stretch our legs? Yes, the creature agrees readily. The two walk along the street, passing the stalled line of transports. Roger notes that some are occupied by outworlders, more number and variety than he had ever seen in his past visits. The Aredians he recognizes easily, as they were the first and for the long time the only outworlders to visit water. They are handsome creatures, who like Peregrine adorn their upright tetrapodal bodies with fabric. Unlike Peregrine, they have dark patterned skin and wide yellow eyes with vertical slits for pupils and very wide mouths. They watch the pair pass with serene yet keen interest. The other outworlders are less serene and less familiar. Smaller furred creatures with long faces, bright bulbous eyes, and large and erect ears openly stare at the pair, jostling one another as they try to get a better look. These Roger takes to be mare urbans. Another furred type is even less serene and more animated. Like the Aredians, they adorn their bodies with fabric. And like the Aredians, they have 2 arms and 2 legs. But unlike the Aredians, they move about manically, gesturing broadly and repeatedly to one another as they openly point to the pair walking past them. These, Roger decides, are Arborians. It dawns on Roger that the source of their excitement and curiosity is not him, as they are on water, or cerulia, as they would call it. So ceruleans would hardly be remarkable. No, the focus of the gawking is Peregrine. Roger is about to remark on this when he spots his old skiffmate hailing him from the loading dock. Peregrine stops him and signals urgently. Remember, trip to Kryptos is secret. Tell Salt we go to Mare Urba. Yes, well, I suppose there's no lie in that. We are stopping on Mare Urba. Roger is nonetheless discomfited by the prospect of keeping something that momentous from his oldest friend. Ahoy, Admiral Roger, Salt greets him enthusiastically. Ahoy yourself, Admiral. I see business is thriving. Today it is, yes. Ah, you have our friend Peregrine with you. Let us get off the street so we can have some privacy. Salt leads them past the bustling warehouse workers, through a door to a small open courtyard whose dominant feature is a small pond. My refuge, Salt says as he waves them in. So what brings the gentleman farmer to Rocketon? I'm returning Peregrine here to its vessel, and I thought I would pay you a visit, as it has been a while. You are always kind enough to visit me, and it has been far too long since I have returned the courtesy. Oh, what is courtesy to skiffmates? But I am pleased to see you. Salt's mantle flashes a warm red. And Peregrine, is yours a social call as well? Yes, the creature's vest signals. Business too. Peregrine take Roger to Mare Urba. Roger need proper containers for food and other things. Can Salt get for Roger? Of course, Salt assures him. How long do you expect to be away, Admiral? I think we plan on a year. Roger looks to Peregrine to confirm. Yes, Peregrine agrees. Maybe away a little longer. Food and seawater for a year? That will be a lot of containers. Peregrine has this idea to dry the seawater and collect the minerals. That way I can mix the minerals in rainwater to flush my gill chambers. What a clever idea! Salt is clearly impressed. Do you mind if I use that myself? He asked Peregrine. Not many people from water travel, but I can see a profit in your trick. Peregrine happy if Salt used trick. My thanks. Now when do you plan to depart? In half a year, Roger replies. Ever the spontaneous one, Salt notes wryly. Who will look after the farm? The lads are capable enough for day-to-day matters. I plan to ask Eddie to oversee things. He's a good sort, Salt agrees. I'm sure he'll be happy to do it, especially for the usual commission. I suspect so. Well, my friends, as pleasant as this has been, I need to see to my business. As you farmers say, I need to pluck the gel while the flowers are in bloom. Safe travels, Peregrine. Roger, I'll see you when I make my rounds, and I'll bring those containers. Roger and Peregrine allow Salt to usher them back out to the loading dock, where they give him their thanks and set off in search of their transport. Peregrine's reappearance sets off another ripple of excitement among the Outworlders. I guess they haven't seen a Nebulan before, Roger speculates as they reboard the transport. Not many Nebulans to see, Peregrine replies. There is that flash of blue sadness in his remark that makes Roger reluctant to pursue the subject further. Peregrine gives the transport driver the dock number of its vessel, and they rejoin the line of transports entering the space docks. Once again, Peregrine provokes stares and excitement of the non-water people, and it seems visibly relieved to arrive at its vessel at last. The transport worker helps them unload, and Roger and Peregrine argue briefly about who is to pay, but Roger prevails as he will take the transport back to the public sea docks. May I impose on your good nature a bit more? Roger asks the driver. I would like to take a look at Peregrine's vessel here. Of course, the young driver replies. What is the meaning of those markings on the side? Roger asks Peregrine as they carry Peregrine's cases up the ramp into the ship. Peregrine gives vessel name. Vessel is named Exile. What a poignant name, Roger could not help exclaim as he entered Exile. Oh, my. It is rather close in here, isn't it? Better this way, Peregrine gestures. Better in the front. It leads Roger to the cockpit, where they have a commanding view of the sky and the surrounding spaceport. A little better, Roger reluctantly agrees. Still closed in, though. Must be closed in, Peregrine replies. No air, water in space. Yes, of course. How long is the journey to Mara Urba? Journey take time of 30 water days. 30 days? No wonder you said we would need to rest. He looks around. It will be like spending 30 days in bed. It will be 60 days to Arborea and 90 days to Kryptos. Roger still want to go? Yes, of course, he says, although he is not as certain as he was. Well, in half a year then. Peregrine will get message to Roger when time. Until then. Roger is relieved to walk back down the ramp to the waiting transport. He climbs up next to the driver, as that seat is more suited to his anatomy. To the public sea dock, sir? Yes, just drop me at the harbor master's. I can walk from there. There's also a line leaving the spaceport, but it moves along well. Roger watches the young driver maneuver the vehicle with admiration. You handled this machine well. How long have you been in transport? Only 10 years, sir. Did you go into transport straight out of nursery? Yes, sir. Where were you spawned? Red Sky. So was I. Most people around here were, I'm told. Yes, I suppose that's true, Roger concedes. He does some arithmetic in his head. 10 years out of nursery, 10 years in nursery, 5 years as a larvae in their breeding lagoon. Yes, this young driver could be from one of Roger's eggs or sperm. But the same could be said for many people, as ceruleans return to the lagoons of their spawning to breed every 5 years. It is an idle but diverting thought. They arrive at the harbor master's station, and Roger pays the lad his fee and a nice tip. The harbor master was nowhere to be seen at first, so Roger entertains himself by tallying the number of traditional cerulean skiffs versus the number of Aredian motorized vessels. The imports are still in the minority, but Roger notes that there are, indeed, more of them than at his last visit. He eventually spots the harbor master hobbling along the dock on his 3 remaining legs. "Ahoy, Admiral!" Roger greets the fellow as he nears. "Ahoy yourself, Commander," the harbor master greets him warmly. "And what brings you to my little fiefdom?" "Am I still a commander?" Roger rejoins playfully. "I have been in dereliction of my duties for 100 years, then." "You are always my commander, sir," the fellow replies solemnly. "If not for you, I would be in the belly of that dread." "You'd have done the same for me, Driftwood," Roger assures him gently. "What happened to your prosthesis? Does it need repair?" "Oh, sir, I don't mean to seem ungrateful." The question clearly embarrassed Driftwood. "It's just that a fellow can do this job on 2 legs. I save it for dress occasions. It still works as well as the day you got it for me." "Oh, good, good," Roger says quickly, and then to change the subject, "I've come to look in on you, old friend, and to reserve a dry dock if one will be available." "One will be available if I have to build it myself," Driftwood assures him. "When will you need it?" "In half a year." Driftwood consults his log. "Consider it yours." "How long will you need it?" "A year." "A year?" "Yes, I'm going on a journey." "A long journey, I'd say." "Will you want maintenance while you're gone?" "Yes, that's a good idea. Look it over, Driftwood, and do what you think is necessary." "It will be as good as new, sir, as good as new." He makes notations in his log. Where in the great tidal swell are you going for a year? Are you circumnavigating the globe? Many of the mustered-out dreads are doing that these days." "No, I'm visiting Mara Urba," Roger replies discreetly. "Mara Urba?" "I should have known Commander Roger wouldn't settle for something as tame as a sail around the lagoon. Do you know the date yet?" "No, not yet. I will send word once I know." "Very good, sir. Is there anything else?" "Just the cost of today's slip. What do I owe you, Driftwood?" "Slip?" Driftwood pretends to go through his log. "I see no record of you having a slip." "Oh, come now, Driftwood. I've been moored here for more than half the day." "The lad who tied you must have neglected to record it. I'll have a word with him, sir, I assure you. But for today I cannot charge you, as there is no fair record of the time." Roger looks at his old comrade and sees further remonstration will be useless. "Thank you, skipmate. It is good to see you well." "It is good to be well, sir." "Well, fair winds, Admiral." "Fair winds, sir, fair winds." Roger tacks back east, the fair winds of that morning's trip still prevailing to the west. As he had to overshoot his island to have the wind at his back for mooring, he decides to stop in to see his neighbor. As has already been noted, Eddie is a decent sort, but he did not do his service in the Dread patrols, and Roger learned the hard way many years ago that one cannot be as direct and businesslike with such people as one can be with a former Dread. Conversations take on a ritual-like quality, as one must circle around the point until the participants both seem to stumble upon it. Roger approaches Eddie's dock and sees that his neighbor has acquired a motorized skiff, which assures Roger that Eddie is at least somewhere on the island. He ties off his skiff and walks through Eddie's living area and toward the blossom fields, where he encounters a young farm worker gathering nectar gel. "Good day to you, lad. Is the proprietor about?" "Yes, sir," the young worker replies, pointing a free arm to the north. "I believe he is over at the dormitory, seeing to a leaky roof." "Thank you, lad. How do you find the harvest?" "Well enough, sir. We'll not starve." Roger does the cerulean equivalent of chuckling to himself as he walks in the direction the lad had indicated. Such a young fellow, Roger thinks, and already knows the standard responses. It is as the young worker said. Eddie is supervising the repair of one of the small shelters the workers sleep in. Unlike the dorms at Roger's farm, the dormitories here are new and made of a bright polymer imported from Oredio. Eddie is watching a trio of workers apply more of the polymer to an existing dorm with rollers. "Mind you fill all the gaps now," he pesters the youngsters, "and don't lay it too thick." He sees Roger's shadow out of the corner of one eye. "Ah, neighbor," he says to Roger, "to what do I owe this honor?" "Oh, I was out on my skiff, and I thought it had been some time since I paid my friend Eddie a visit. I thought it time to rectify that oversight." "Oh, there's naught to rectify, but I am pleased to see you." He gestures to the dormitories. "Aredian polymer. Goes up fast, but only 10 years in the sun and it starts to disintegrate. Needs constant maintenance. Now I wish I had built these the old way like yours. They take endless days to build, but they last until the end of days. The old ways are better in some things. He gestures to Roger to walk with him back to his private living area. But not in skiffs, I see, Roger lightly teases as they walk together. Oh, you saw that, did you? Well, Roger, all I can say in my defense is that we were not all dreads. When I go with sea, I want to get where I'm going, not bicker with the wind and waves. That's understandable. They walk without talking in a few steps, and then Roger adds, Speaking of going to sea, I'm afraid I have a terrible imposition to burden you with. A friend has asked me on a journey of a year's duration, and I need someone to look after my farm. I hope to prevail upon your generous nature. Oh, where's the imposition in that? All I'll have to do is take my Iredian skiff over to your place and see that your lads are getting the harvest in and that Salt is crediting your accounts properly. 'Tis you who'll be doing me the favor, getting me away from my frets and worries. Only to attend to mine? I hardly see the favor in that, but I take your willingness most gratefully and insist that you take all the proceeds once the lads have been fed and paid. I will not do it, sir. Oh, I will look after your farm. That I am determined to do, but I will not take your wherewithal for such a paltry service. No, sir, I am not a thief. Then you make me the thief, sir, by taking no recompense for your troubles. Oh, well then, I suppose I can find room in my coffers for a quarter of the proceeds, if that will soothe your feelings. It does not, sir. The very notion is an offense to you, sir, and if you do not take the offense, I do so on your behalf. No less than 3/4 of the proceeds, sir. I'll not be a thief of your conscientious service. The two arrive at Eddie's dock. We are at an impasse, then, Eddie observes sadly. It would seem so. Well, since it seems we must each take a wound to our pride, it had best be in equal measure, Eddie suggests reluctantly. I will take half the proceeds for the sake of our friendship, but no more. A just and wise compromise, Roger responds admiringly. I will consent to half the proceeds for the same sake, but no less. We are agreed, Eddie says, putting an end to the matter. When do you set sail, as it were? In half a year. The date has not yet been established. I will let you know as soon as I know. In a day, in 100, I am ready to help. I am most grateful. Well, my friend, the light fails, and I have wind and waves to bigger with. Yes, good night. Or what is it you dread say? Fair winds. To you, sir, as well. To you as well. Excuse me. Eddie casts Roger off and watches as his sails fill ahead of the wind. As he turns, he muses that Roger is a bit of an eccentric, but he's a decent sort. It is still light as Roger hoists his skiff out of the water at his dock. The stars are just beginning to appear, and he recalls Peregrine looking wistfully at the northern sky. He wonders what Peregrine could be looking for, and decides to consult with a local expert. He finds the expert eating his evening meal with the rest of the young farm workers. Good evening, lads, Roger greets them amiably. Stay as you are. I don't want to disturb your meal. One of the young workers finds Roger a seat, and another offers Roger some nectar gel. Thank you, lads, but I'll not take food from your bellies. Pray eat as I consult with the professor here. The young workers do as they are told, except for the one referred to as the professor. The lad's real name translates as Sunshade, but he earned the nickname as Professor with his faultless recall of every lesson he learned in nursery. So, Professor, Roger begins, refresh my dim memory. Where in the sky is Mare Urba found this time of year? Mare Urba, sir? That would be to the east. It becomes visible as the sun sets. Is that so? Roger replies. What about Kryptos? That would be to the southeast, sir. It takes an exceptionally clear night to see it. I see. And Nebula? Nebula rises and sets with the sun, sir. You can see it just before dawn and just after sunset. Roger is stumped. What does one see, then, as one looks north? You would be looking across the galaxy, sir. The dimmest stars are hundreds of thousands of light years away. So when I look into the northern sky, I am looking into the past. Yes, sir, quite so. Roger levels his gaze on the youngster. Why didn't you seek work in the nursery, Professor? You have an excellent command of your education. My instructors wanted me to, sir. But you wanted to be a farm worker? No. Yes. May I have a private word, sir? This surprises Roger. Why, yes. Yes, of course. The two rise from the table and walk into the blossom fields away from the dining workers. You ask why I did not seek work as an instructor, Sunshade begins. The answer is I did not want to spend my life in nursery. But I do not wish to spend my life farming either. Well, my lad, you have me most confused. What is it that you want to do? Sunshade looks directly at him. I want to serve in the Dread Patrol. My instructors would not recommend me as they insisted I was suited to education. I came to work here for you in hopes that if I prove my worth, you would recommend me to the Dreads. Will you, sir? Oh, my lad, the Dreads are not all sailing and camaraderie. The Dreads are a dangerous business. That I know well. It is where I want to serve. Well, you need not fear. You have proved your worth to me. That was a very clever maneuver to get around those stodgy instructors. Of course I will recommend you. Thank you, sir. I'm in your debt. Oh, what nonsense. You've incurred no debt. Now go back and finish your meal before the other lads finish it for you. Thank you, sir. Good night. Good night, Professor. I have learned much. Thank you. Back at his own sleeping shelter, Roger looks to the north and still wonders what past Peregrine was looking to. That ends Chapter 3 of Menace in the Goldilocks Zone. Thanks for watching.